What if people are not speaking English too fast? What if your brain is simply processing English too slowly? You hear a sentence. You translate it. You search for meaning. And before you finish, the speaker is already ahead. But your brain can be trained to understand English without translating every word. In these 7 lessons, you will discover how to rewire your mind, train your ears, recognize English patterns faster, and finally understand English more naturally. Stay until lesson 7, because that is where the translation habit begins to disappear. If you are ready, comment. I will think in English. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Stop translating every word. One of the biggest reasons you understand English slowly is very simple. You are trying to translate every word inside your mind. You hear an English sentence, then your brain quickly searches for the meaning in your own language. After that, you try to understand the full sentence. This creates an extra step, and that extra step makes English feel slow. Imagine someone says, "I'm looking forward to meeting you." If you translate every single word, your brain may stop at looking, then forward, then meeting. You may know all the words, but the meaning still feels confusing. But a fluent English speaker does not usually hear each word separately. They hear the whole idea. They understand, "I am excited to meet you." That is the skill you need to build. You do not need to remove translation from your brain in one day. That is almost impossible. Translation is a natural habit, especially when you are learning a new language. The goal is to slowly make translation less necessary. Start by connecting English directly to meaning. For example, when you hear the word apple, do not immediately search for the word apple in your language. Try to see an apple in your mind. When you hear open the door, imagine someone opening a door. When you hear I'm tired, connect the sentence with the feeling of being tired. This trains your brain to connect English with pictures, feelings, actions, and situations instead of translations. This small change is powerful. You should also stop worrying about understanding every single word. Many learners make this mistake. They listen to a sentence and hear 9 words clearly, but 1 word is unfamiliar. Suddenly, they stop listening. Their mind becomes stuck on that 1 word. While they are thinking about it, the speaker has already said 2 more sentences. Now they are completely lost. Instead, ask yourself, what is the main idea? You can often understand a sentence without knowing every word. Think about how you communicate in your own language. Sometimes you do not hear every word clearly, but you still understand the message because your brain uses context. You need to give your English brain permission to do the same thing. Here is a simple practice. Listen to a short English video for 1 or 2 minutes. Do not pause after every sentence. Do not translate, just listen. Afterward, ask yourself, what was this person talking about? If you understand the main idea, that is progress. Then listen again. The second time, notice more details. This is how your brain becomes faster. At first, it may feel uncomfortable because your mind wants to translate. That is normal. But every time you understand English without translating, even for a few seconds, you are teaching your brain a new way to process the language. Remember, fluent listeners do not chase every word, they follow the meaning. So stop trying to translate everything perfectly. Listen for the message. See the picture. Feel the meaning. And little by little, English will stop feeling like something you must decode. It will begin to feel like something you simply understand. Chapter 2. Rewire your brain for English. If English still feels slow in your mind, the problem may not be your vocabulary. The problem may be how your brain is processing English. For years, your brain has been trained to understand your first language automatically. You do not translate it. You do not stop and think about grammar. You simply hear it and understand. That is exactly what you want to build with English. And the good news is this: your brain can learn a new pattern, but it needs repetition. Right now, when you hear English, your brain may follow this path: English, translation, meaning. That path is too long. You want to build a new path: English, trans meaning, directly. This is what it means to rewire your brain for English. Think of your brain like a road. The road you use every day becomes smooth and easy. The road you never use becomes difficult to travel. If you always translate English, the translation road becomes stronger. But if you begin connecting English directly with meaning, a new road begins to form. At first, that road feels weak. You may still translate. You may still feel slow. But every time you listen to English and understand without translating, you are strengthening that new road. This is why daily exposure matters so much. You do not need 5 hours of difficult study. You need regular contact with simple English. Listen to English every day. Read short English sentences. Watch simple conversations. Repeat useful phrases. Hear the same expressions again and again. For example, what do you mean? I don't think so. That makes sense. I'm not sure. It depends. Do not study these as separate grammar lessons. Hear them as complete pieces of English. The more often your brain hears them, the less thinking you need. Eventually, you stop building the sentence word by word. You simply recognize it. That is a major step toward fluency. Another powerful way to rewire your brain is to think in very small English sentences. Do not start with difficult thoughts. Start with your daily life. When you wake up, think, I'm tired. When you are hungry, I need something to eat. When you are leaving, I have to go. When something surprises you, I didn't expect that. These small moments teach your brain to use English without asking your first language for help. And this is important. Do not wait until your English is perfect. Your brain does not become automatic because you know everything. It becomes automatic because you use what you already know many times. Simple English repeated often is more powerful than difficult English studied once. So stop trying to impress yourself with complicated vocabulary. Train your brain with useful English you can understand quickly, again and again, day after day. Soon, something interesting begins to happen. A person says a sentence in English, and before you have time to translate it, you already understand. You read a phrase, and the meaning appears immediately. You hear a familiar expression, and your brain reacts naturally. That is not magic. That is training. That is repetition. That is your brain changing. Remember, you do not become fast in English by forcing your brain to work harder. You become fast by training your brain to work differently. English must stop feeling like a puzzle you solve. It must become a language your brain recognizes. Keep listening, keep repeating, keep thinking in simple English. And little by little, your brain will stop translating English and start living inside it. Chapter 3. Train your ears to think faster. You may know hundreds of English words. You may understand grammar. You may even read English quite well. But when a native speaker starts talking quickly, everything suddenly feels different. The words seem to disappear. The sentence moves too fast, and your brain says, wait, what did they say? This happens because your problem is not always vocabulary. Sometimes, your ears are simply not trained for real English speed. Reading gives your brain time. You can stop, you can look again, you can think, but listening is different. English keeps moving. If your ears cannot recognize sounds quickly, your brain has no time to understand the meaning. That is why listening must be trained like a physical skill. Think about music. When you hear a song for the first time, some words may sound unclear. But after listening several times, suddenly you hear words you did not hear before. Did the singer change? No. Your ears changed. They became familiar with the sound. English works the same way. The more your ears hear natural English, the faster they begin to recognize it. But there is one important mistake many learners make. They always listen to English that is too difficult. They choose fast movies, complicated podcasts, difficult news, and advanced conversations. Then they understand almost nothing. This does not train confidence. It creates frustration. To build listening speed, start with English that you can mostly understand. Maybe you understand 70 or 80%. That is enough. Listen once without stopping. Do not panic when you miss something. Just follow the general meaning. Then listen again. On the second listen, your ears will usually catch more. Listen a third time if necessary. You will begin noticing something powerful. The English is not actually becoming slower. Your brain is becoming faster. This is exactly what you want. You should also train your ears to recognize how English really sounds. English speakers do not always pronounce every word clearly and separately. They connect words. They shorten sounds. They speak in groups. For example, what do you want to do? In natural speech, this may sound much faster than it looks on paper. If you only study written English, your brain may know the sentence, but your ears may not recognize it. That is why you must hear real English again and again. Do not only study how English looks, train yourself to recognize how English sounds. Another powerful exercise is called short repetition. Choose one sentence from a video. Listen carefully, pause, repeat it, then play it again. Try to copy the rhythm, not only the words. For example, I didn't know you were coming. Listen, repeat, listen again, repeat again. Do this 5 times. You are training 2 things at once. Your mouth learns how English moves, and your ears learn how English sounds. This makes listening faster. There is another rule you must remember. Do not mentally fight every sentence. When learners hear fast English, they often become tense. They try so hard to catch every word that they stop understanding the message. Relax your attention. Listen for important words. Imagine someone says, I was going to call you yesterday, but I got really busy at work. Maybe you only hear call, yesterday, busy, work. That may already be enough to understand the general message. Your brain can fill in the rest through context. That is a real listening skill. You do not need perfect hearing. You need fast understanding. So give your ears daily training. 10 focused minutes every day can be more powerful than 2 hours once a week. Listen to short conversations. Replay familiar clips. Repeat useful sentences. Notice connected sounds. And most importantly, stop judging yourself every time you miss a word. Every missed word is not failure. It is information. It shows your ears what they still need to learn. Then one day, something surprising will happen. Someone will speak quickly, and instead of thinking, slow down, your brain will simply follow. The sounds will become words. The words will become meaning. And the meaning will arrive before you have time to translate. That is when you realize, your ears are no longer chasing English. They are finally keeping up with it. Train your ears every day, because when your ears become faster, your brain becomes faster too. Chapter 4. Understand meaning, not words. There is a big difference between hearing English words and understanding English meaning. Many learners do not notice this difference. They believe that if they understand every word, they will understand the sentence. But real listening does not always work like that. Sometimes you know every word in a sentence, but you still do not understand what the speaker truly means. And sometimes you miss several words, but you still understand the message perfectly. Why? Because language is not only made of words. Language is made of ideas, emotions, situations, and intentions. That is why one of the most important skills in English is learning to understand the meaning behind the words. Imagine someone says, "It's getting late." The sentence is very simple, but what does it mean? Maybe the person is only talking about the time, but maybe they mean, "We should leave." Maybe they mean, "You should go home." Maybe they mean, "Let's finish this conversation." The words are the same, but the meaning can change depending on the situation. This is why listening word by word is not enough. You must learn to listen to the whole situation. Ask yourself, who is speaking? What is happening? How does the person sound? What are they trying to communicate? These questions help your brain understand English more naturally. Now imagine your friend says, "You're unbelievable." Does that mean something good or something bad? You cannot know from the words alone. If your friend is smiling because you gave them an amazing surprise, it may mean, "Wow, you are amazing." But if they are angry because you made the same mistake again, it may mean, "I cannot believe you did that." The words did not change, the meaning changed. This is one reason learners sometimes understand vocabulary but still feel lost in real conversations. They are listening to dictionaries. Native speakers are listening to meaning. You need to train yourself to do the same. Start by changing one habit. When you hear English, do not immediately ask, "What does every word mean?" Instead ask, "What is this person trying to tell me?" That question changes everything. It moves your attention away from individual words and toward the message. This is especially important when listening to fast English. When someone speaks quickly, you may not hear every word clearly. That is normal. Even native speakers do not always hear every word perfectly. But they understand because their brain uses context. For example, imagine you hear, meeting, tomorrow, around 10. Maybe you missed several words. but your brain can probably understand that someone is talking about a meeting tomorrow at around 10. You do not need to panic because 3 words disappeared. The main meaning is still there. This is how strong listeners think. They do not stop the entire conversation because one small piece is missing. They keep moving. They use what they understand to guess what they missed. This skill is powerful because real English is not a classroom test. In real life, people speak quickly. There may be background noise. They may have different accents. They may use expressions you do not know. You cannot stop every person and say, "Please repeat each word slowly." You need a brain that can follow the message even when the English is not perfect, and you can train this. One simple exercise is called main idea listening. Choose a short video or audio clip. Listen to it once. Do not pause. Do not use subtitles. Do not translate. When it finishes, answer only one question. What was the main message? Maybe you cannot repeat every sentence. That is fine. If you can explain the basic idea, your listening worked. For example, maybe you listen to someone talking for 1 minute. You do not understand everything, but afterward you can say, "He was talking about why he changed his job." Excellent. That means you understood the meaning. On the second listen, ask another question. What important details did I hear? Maybe now you notice. He was unhappy. He wanted more freedom. He found another opportunity. That is enough. You are training your brain to build meaning in layers. First, the big picture, then the details. This is much better than stopping after every unknown word. Another important skill is learning to use key words. Not every word in a sentence has the same importance. Some words carry the main meaning. Imagine someone says, "I really wanted to come to your party last night, but unfortunately I had to stay late at the office." If you miss a few small words but here, wanted, party, last night, stay late, office, you can probably understand the message. The person wanted to come, but work stopped them. Your brain does not need every small word to understand the story. This is why strong listeners focus on important information. They listen for names, actions, places, times, feelings, important nouns and verbs. These words help the brain build the picture. And that word is important, picture. Good listening is often like creating a movie inside your mind. If someone says, "I missed the bus, so I had to walk home in the rain," do not translate each word. See the situation, see the bus leaving, see the person walking, see the rain, feel the frustration. When your brain creates a picture, the sentence becomes easier to remember and understand. This is how children often learn language. They connect words with experiences. They do not begin by translating everything. They hear, "Sit down," and someone sits down. They hear, "Come here," and someone comes closer. They connect sound directly with action and meaning. As an adult learner, you can use the same principle. Connect English with reality. If you hear the word freezing, imagine standing outside on a very cold morning. If you hear exhausted, remember a day when you had no energy left. If you hear delicious, imagine your favorite food. The stronger the connection between English and meaning becomes, the less translation you need. There is another reason meaning is more important than individual words. English contains many expressions that cannot be understood by translating each word separately. Imagine someone says, "Give me a hand." If you focus only on the words, you may imagine someone giving another person their hand, but the real meaning is usually, "Help me." Or someone says, "That rings a bell." The speaker is probably not talking about a real bell. They mean, "That sounds familiar." Or someone says, "I'm on the fence." They may not be sitting on a real fence. They mean, "I have not decided yet." This is why English becomes easier when you learn phrases as complete units. Do not always break them apart. Learn the whole message. Instead of studying by the way separately, learn by the way as one useful expression. Instead of studying as soon as separately, recognize as soon as possible. Your brain becomes faster when it recognizes groups of words instead of processing everything one piece at a time. Think about reading. When you first learned to read, maybe you looked at every letter. Later, you began seeing whole words. Then you started recognizing whole phrases. Listening develops in the same way. At first you may hear separate sounds, then words, then phrases. Eventually, you hear complete ideas. That is the level you want to reach. But there is one habit that can stop this progress: fear of missing something. Many English learners become nervous the moment they do not understand a word. Their mind says, "I missed something. I am lost." Then they stop listening. This is dangerous because while they are thinking about the word they miss the next 10 words. You need a new rule. If you miss one word, keep going. Do not turn around mentally. Stay with the speaker. The next sentence may explain the word you missed. The situation may make the meaning clear. The speaker may repeat the idea in another way. Give the conversation time to help you. Imagine you are watching a movie and a character says one word you do not know. Then they grab an umbrella and run outside into heavy rain. Maybe the unknown word was related to the weather. You understood through the situation. That is real comprehension. Your brain is using more than vocabulary. It is using logic, emotion, visual information, tone, and context. And this is exactly how language works. Another powerful exercise is to summarize English in simple English. After listening to something, do not translate it into your own language. Try to explain it using easy English. For example, you hear a story about a woman who missed her flight because traffic was terrible. You could summarize, "She arrived late at the airport because there was too much traffic, so she missed her flight." Your summary does not need to be perfect. The goal is to keep your brain inside English. This trains you to move from English input to English meaning, then back into English. No translation in the middle. That is a very powerful habit. You can also ask yourself simple questions while listening. What happened? Who did it? Why did it happen? How did the person feel? What happened next? These questions force your brain to understand the story instead of collecting vocabulary. Over time, English begins to feel less like a list of words and more like a living language, and that is when your listening starts becoming faster. Because meaning moves faster than translation. Think about this. If someone shouts, "Watch out," you do not want your brain to say, "Watch means this. Out means this. Together maybe this means too late." You need instant meaning. You hear the phrase and understand, danger, move, be careful. That is how automatic language works. The meaning arrives immediately. This is the skill you are building with every listening practice. So from now on, when you listen to English, stop asking yourself whether you understood every word. Ask something more useful. Did I understand the message? Did I understand the situation? Did I understand how the speaker felt? Did I understand what happened? If the answer is yes, you are improving. And remember, understanding 80% of a conversation without translating can be far more useful than understanding 100% of individual words very slowly. English is not a vocabulary exam, it is communication. Your goal is not to collect every word, your goal is to receive the message. So listen to the story, not just the sentences. Listen to the emotion, not just the grammar. Listen to the intention, not just the vocabulary. See the pictures inside the words. Use the situation, follow the important ideas, and when one word disappears, keep moving. Because the moment you stop chasing every word is often the moment you finally begin understanding English as a whole. Words are only the road. Meaning is the destination. Train yourself to reach the destination faster. Chapter 5. Make English patterns automatic. There is a moment in every English learner's journey when something important begins to change. You stop thinking about every word. You stop building every sentence from the beginning, and instead your brain starts recognizing English automatically. That is when English begins to feel faster. That is when listening becomes easier. That is when speaking begins to feel more natural. And the secret behind this change is very simple. Your brain starts recognizing patterns. A language is not just thousands of separate words, it is made of patterns that appear again and again. The same groups of words, the same sentence structures, the same expressions, the same ways of asking questions, the same ways of giving opinions, the same ways of agreeing, refusing, explaining, remembering, comparing, and reacting. When your brain learns these patterns, it no longer needs to solve English one word at a time. It simply recognizes what is happening. Think about a simple sentence. I don't know. You probably do not hear this as 3 separate words anymore. You hear it as one complete idea. You do not think, I means this, don't means this, no means this. Your brain simply understands, I do not have the answer. That is automatic English. Now imagine you could develop that same automatic understanding with hundreds and eventually thousands of useful English patterns. Your listening speed would change completely. This is one of the biggest differences between a beginner and a strong English listener. A beginner hears word, 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 word. A stronger listener hears patterns, ideas, meaning. This is why someone can know 5,000 English words and still struggle to understand a conversation. They may know the vocabulary, but their brain has not yet learned how those words naturally travel together. And that is what you need to train. Start noticing English in groups. Do not always learn what do you think. Learn what do you think as one pattern. Do not only learn I have no idea. Learn I have no idea as one complete expression. Do not study it depends as separate pieces. Recognize it depends instantly. The faster your brain recognizes groups, the faster you understand. Let us look at another example. Someone says, "I'm not sure if I can make it." A slow listener may try to understand every word individually, but an experienced listener recognizes patterns. "I'm not sure." This means uncertainty. "If I can." This usually introduces whether something is possible. Make it. In this situation, it may mean attend or arrive. The whole sentence becomes, "I don't know if I can come." The listener understands quickly because the brain already knows the pieces. This is exactly what you want to build, and you build it through repetition. Not random repetition, useful repetition. There are certain English expressions you will hear constantly. For example, I think, I don't think, do you want to, would you like to, I'm trying to, I need to, I have to. It looks like, it sounds like. The problem is, the reason is, it depends on. I'm used to, I don't mind, as far as I know. These are not rare expressions, they appear everywhere. Movies, conversations, podcasts, interviews, workplaces, schools, daily life. If your brain recognizes them automatically, you understand a large part of English before the speaker even finishes the sentence. This is powerful. Imagine someone begins with, "The reason I didn't," your brain already expects an explanation. You do not know the full sentence yet, but you know the direction. Or someone says, "The problem with that is," your brain knows that criticism or difficulty is coming next. Or, "I was about to," your brain expects an action that was almost going to happen. This is how your brain becomes faster. It starts predicting English. Prediction is one of the most important parts of fluent listening. When you know a language well, you are not waiting for every word with no idea what comes next. Your brain is constantly guessing, and good patterns make those guesses easier. For example, if someone says, "Would you mind?" your brain knows a polite request is probably coming. If someone says, "I can't believe," you expect surprise. If someone says, "The best thing about," you expect something positive. If someone says, "The reason why," you expect an explanation. Your brain is preparing for the meaning before the sentence is complete. That reduces the amount of work you need to do. And this is why English starts to feel slower at first and faster later. The speaker may not actually be speaking more slowly. Your brain simply knows what to expect. Think of driving on a road you know very well. The first time you travel somewhere, you pay attention to everything. Where do I turn? Which road comes next? Is this the right street? Everything requires attention. But after taking that road 50 times, you barely think about it. Your mind already knows the route. English works the same way. When an English pattern is new, it requires attention. After hearing it many times, the brain knows the route. It becomes automatic. That is the goal. But there is a problem. Many learners spend too much time studying English they rarely use. They memorize long vocabulary lists. They learn unusual grammar rules. They collect difficult words because difficult words make them feel advanced. But the fastest progress often comes from mastering simple English extremely well. A learner who automatically understands 1,000 common patterns may follow conversations more easily than someone who knows 5,000 separate words, but processes everything slowly. This is why you should not be embarrassed by simple English. Simple English is the foundation of fast English. Take the sentence. What are you doing? very basic, but native speakers use patterns like this constantly. Change one part. What are you watching? What are you reading? What are you looking for? What are you thinking about? Now you are not memorizing 4 completely different sentences. You are learning a flexible pattern. What are you plus verbing. Your brain begins recognizing the structure. Then when someone says, "What are you waiting for?" you understand immediately. This is pattern learning. And it is much more powerful than memorizing sentences without understanding how they connect. Here is another pattern. I'm going to. You can use it in hundreds of situations. I'm going to call him. I'm going to study tonight. I'm going to leave early. I'm going to try again. I'm going to think about it. The beginning stays familiar, only the ending changes. That familiar beginning gives your brain time. As soon as you hear, "I'm going to," you already understand that the speaker is talking about an intention or future action. This is why patterns make listening easier. They reduce surprise. They give your brain structure. Now let us make this practical. Choose 10 useful patterns, not 50. Not 100. 10. For example, I'm trying to. I'm looking for. I don't know if. It depends on. I used to. I'm used to. I'd rather. There's no need to. The reason is. The problem is. Now spend several days noticing them, hear them, read them, repeat them, use them in your own sentences. Imagine situations where they could appear. Let us take. I used to. Make examples. I used to live there. I used to wake up late. I used to be shy. I used to play football. I used to translate every English sentence. Now when you hear "I used to," your brain recognizes it immediately. You no longer need to stop and analyze the grammar. You simply understand that the speaker is talking about something that was true in the past but may not be true now. That is automatic understanding. Another useful pattern is, "I'm used to." It looks very similar, but it means something different. I'm used to waking up early. This means waking up early feels normal to me. At first, the difference may require thinking, but after hearing and using both patterns many times, your brain begins separating them automatically. You hear, "I used to wake up early," past habit. You hear, "I'm used to waking up early," something familiar or normal. You do not need to explain the grammar to yourself every time. The meaning simply arrives. That is exactly what fluency feels like. Now here is another important idea. Automatic patterns are not only grammatical, they are also conversational. Real English conversations are full of predictable reactions. Someone gives you good news. You may hear, "That's great," "No way," "Seriously, I'm so happy for you." Someone explains a problem. You may hear, "That sounds difficult," "I understand," "That makes sense," "What are you going to do?" Someone gives an opinion. You may hear, "I agree," "I'm not sure about that," "That's a good point," "I see what you mean." These are conversation patterns. If your brain knows them, conversations feel much easier. You begin predicting not only language, but also human reactions. And this gives you confidence. There is a powerful training method you can use here. It is called sentence mining, but you can keep it very simple. Whenever you hear a useful sentence in a video, movie, podcast, or conversation, save it. Not because it contains a difficult word. Save it because it contains a useful pattern. For example, "I don't know what you mean." Do not only memorize this sentence. Notice the pattern. I don't know what. Then build. I don't know what happened. I don't know what he wants. I don't know what to say. I don't know what they decided. Now one sentence has given you a whole family of English. That is efficient learning. Another example. It's hard to explain. Pattern. It's hard to. Now. It's hard to understand. It's hard to remember. It's hard to believe. It's hard to decide. It's hard to stay focused. Your brain begins seeing the skeleton of English. And once you see the skeleton, new sentences become easier to understand. This is why advanced listeners can sometimes understand sentences containing words they have never heard before. They understand the structure around the unknown word. Imagine hearing, "I'm not really interested in glarving anymore." Glarving is not a real word, but you still understand something. You know the speaker is saying they are no longer very interested in some activity or thing. Why? Because the pattern, I'm not really interested in is clear. The pattern carries part of the meaning. That is how powerful structure is. Now consider your daily listening practice. Instead of listening only for vocabulary, start asking, which parts of this sentence have I heard before? Maybe the sentence is, I was wondering if you could help me with something. At first, it looks long, but break it into useful pieces. I was wondering if, this often introduces a polite request. You could help me, a common request pattern, with something, a familiar ending. Once these pieces are familiar, the whole sentence feels easy. That is what automatic listening looks like. You are not translating, you are recognizing, and recognition is faster than translation. Think about recognizing a friend's face. When you see your best friend, do you analyze the eyes, nose, hair, and face shape before deciding who it is? No. You recognize the whole face immediately. That is how you want to recognize English, not, what does this word mean? What grammar is this? Why did they use this tense? Instead, I know this pattern, and the meaning appears. There is also another benefit. Automatic patterns improve your speaking. Listening and speaking are deeply connected. The English you recognize easily is often the English you can produce more easily. If you hear, I don't really feel like, hundreds of times, one day you may naturally say, I don't really feel like going out tonight. You did not build the sentence from grammar rules. The pattern was already stored in your mind. You simply filled in the ending. This is why good input becomes good output. What enters your ears again and again eventually becomes available to your mouth. But repetition must be active. Listening to English in the background all day may help a little. Focused listening helps much more. Take one short clip, maybe 30 seconds. Listen once. Understand the message. Listen again and notice useful phrases. Then choose one or two patterns. Repeat them aloud. Create your own sentences. Return to the clip the next day. You will be surprised how familiar it feels. Your brain likes familiarity. Familiarity creates speed. Speed creates confidence. And confidence makes you listen more naturally. Another important rule is this: do not constantly change your learning material. Many learners believe they always need something new. New podcast, new channel, new movie, new vocabulary list, new teacher, new method. But repetition is where automatic understanding is built. Listening to one useful conversation 5 times can sometimes train your brain more deeply than listening to 5 different conversations once. The first time, you hear the general message. The second time, you hear more words. The third time, you notice patterns. The fourth time, the rhythm feels familiar. The fifth time, your brain starts predicting what comes next. That prediction is exactly what you want. Do not be afraid of repetition. Athletes repeat movements, musicians repeat songs, drivers repeat routes. And language learners need to repeat language. Automatic skills are created by repetition. There is another thing you should understand. At first, you may know a pattern but still need time to process it. That is okay. Automatic does not mean instant from day one. It develops in stages. Stage 1. I have never seen this before. Stage 2. I recognize this, but I need to think. Stage 3. I know what this means quickly. Stage 4. I understand it without thinking. That last stage is the goal, and every useful phrase can slowly move through these stages. That means you should not judge your progress only by how many new things you learn. Also ask, how many old things have become automatic? That is a much better measure. Maybe you learned fewer new words this month, but perhaps now you immediately understand. As long as, I'd rather, there's no point in, I'm looking forward to, I was supposed to. That is real progress. Your English brain is becoming faster. Here is another powerful exercise. Choose one pattern and use it throughout your day. Suppose your pattern is, I need to, in the morning. I need to get ready, at work. I need to finish this, at lunch. I need to eat something. In the evening, I need to call my friend. Before sleeping, I need to wake up early. One pattern, many situations. This teaches your brain flexibility. English stops being something that only exists inside textbooks. It becomes part of your life. Do the same with, I'm thinking about, I'm trying to, I'm not sure, I forgot to, I decided to. The more often you connect these patterns with real situations, the stronger they become. And there is something beautiful about this process. One day you will hear a long English sentence and realize that you understood it without trying. You will not know exactly how you understood it. You simply did. That is because your brain did the work automatically. Maybe the sentence was, I was going to call you, but then I remembered you said you'd be busy tonight. A beginner may see a complicated sentence, but your trained brain sees familiar pieces. I was going to, but then I remembered you said you'd be busy. The sentence becomes a chain of familiar patterns, and familiar patterns are easier to follow. This is why your goal should not be to become faster at translating. Your goal is to need translation less and less. You do that by making English familiar. Make common patterns so familiar that your brain responds to them immediately. When you hear, what if, your mind opens to a possibility. When you hear, the truth is, you expect an important statement. When you hear, it turns out, you expect a surprising result. When you hear, at least, you expect someone to find something positive, or compare situations. When you hear, even though, you expect a contrast. These patterns guide your understanding. They are like signs on the road. They tell your brain where the sentence is going. And the more signs you recognize, the less lost you feel. So from today, stop treating every sentence like a new problem. Look for what repeats. Look for familiar beginnings. Look for familiar endings. Look for phrases that appear again and again. Save them. Repeat them. Use them. Listen to them until they become boring. Because something important happens after something becomes boring. It often becomes automatic. And automatic English is powerful English. You do not need to translate. You do not need to analyze. You do not need to build the meaning piece by piece. Your brain sees the pattern and says, I know this. That is the moment listening becomes easier. That is the moment speaking becomes quicker. That is the moment English begins moving through your mind without asking permission from your first language. So do not only learn more English. Automate the English you already know. Make useful phrases part of your memory. Make common structures familiar. Make everyday expressions feel natural. Hear them until you can predict them. Repeat them until you can use them. Use them until you no longer need to think about them, because fluency is not knowing every English word. Fluency is having enough English patterns inside your mind that meaning can move quickly, and when those patterns become automatic, something powerful begins to happen. You stop chasing English. English starts coming to you. Chapter 6. The fastest way to build listening speed. If you can read English well but still struggle to understand people when they speak, there is one thing you need to understand. Your listening problem is not always an English problem. Sometimes it is a speed problem. You already know many of the words. You may even understand the sentence perfectly when you see it written, but when someone says the same sentence quickly, your brain cannot catch it in time. The words arrive, then the next words arrive, then another sentence begins. And before your brain finishes understanding the first part, the speaker is already far ahead. This is why many English learners say, I understand English when people speak slowly, but I get lost when they speak naturally. That sentence tells you something important. You do not always need more vocabulary. You need to train your brain to process familiar English faster. Listening speed is a skill, and like every skill, it improves through the right kind of practice. Not by forcing yourself to understand everything, not by watching difficult movies for hours, not by memorizing hundreds of new words every day. The fastest way to build listening speed is to train your brain with short, understandable English again and again until the meaning becomes automatic. That sounds simple, but this one idea can completely change your listening. Let us understand why. Imagine someone says, "What are you doing later?" If you know every word but your brain processes them one at a time, this happens. What are you doing later? Then you put the sentence together. By the time you understand it, the speaker may already be saying, "Do you want to grab something to eat?" Now your brain has another sentence to solve. You begin falling behind, but a trained listener hears, "What are you doing later?" as one familiar idea. There is almost no delay. The meaning appears immediately. That small difference is everything. Listening speed is not mainly about making the speaker slower, it is about making your understanding faster. And the best way to do that is not to keep searching for harder English. It is to make common English extremely familiar. Think about your own language. Someone can speak quickly, but you still understand. Why? Because your brain has heard the same patterns thousands of times. You do not need to process each word carefully. your brain already knows how the language moves. You recognize the beginning of a sentence. You predict what may come next. You understand incomplete phrases. You can even understand someone when they speak with background noise. That is not because your ears are better. It is because your brain has years of experience with those sounds. You need to create the same kind of experience with English. Of course, you cannot copy 20 years of exposure in 1 week, but you can train intelligently, and intelligent practice can make your progress much faster. The first rule is this: do not train listening speed with English that is far above your level. This mistake wastes a lot of time. Many learners think, if I listen to very fast native English, I will become a fast listener. Not necessarily. If you understand only 10 or 20%, your brain does not have enough information to build strong connections. You hear sound, but much of it feels like noise. That can be useful sometimes, but it should not be your main training method. Think about the gym. If you can lift 10 kilograms comfortably, trying to lift 100 kilograms every day will not make you strong faster. It may simply exhaust you. You need a challenge that is difficult enough to create growth, but easy enough that you can actually perform the movement correctly. Listening is the same. Choose material where you understand most of the message. You should feel challenged, but not completely lost. When the material is understandable, your brain can connect the sounds with meaning. That connection is what creates speed. Now here is where the real training begins. Choose a short English clip. Maybe 30 seconds, maybe 1 minute. Do not choose 20 minutes. Short is powerful because you can repeat it. Listen to the clip once without subtitles. Do not pause. Do not translate. Just ask, what is happening? Maybe you understand 60%. Maybe 80%. That is okay. Listen again. This time, pay attention to what you missed. Maybe a sentence suddenly becomes clear. Maybe you hear a word that disappeared the first time. Maybe you notice 2 words connecting together. Listen again. By the 3rd or 4th time, something interesting begins to happen. The clip feels slower, but the recording did not change. The speaker did not slow down. Your brain became more familiar with the sound. This is one of the most important experiences in listening training. The first time, English sounds fast. After repetition, the same English sounds normal. That shows you that speed is partly a familiarity problem. When your brain knows what is coming, it processes the sound faster, so do not always run away from old material. Repetition is not a waste of time. It is one of the fastest ways to build automatic listening. Many learners always want something new. New video, new podcast, new lesson, new vocabulary, new teacher, new topic. They feel productive because they are constantly meeting new English. But listening speed grows through familiarity. If everything is new all the time, your brain is always working at maximum effort. Sometimes you need to stay with one piece of English long enough for it to become easy. That is where automatic understanding is born. Here is a simple listening speed routine. Take a 40-second clip. First, listen. Understand the topic. Second, listen. Catch the main details. Third, listen. Notice phrases and connected sounds. Fourth, listen. Follow the speaker without translating. Fifth, listen. Repeat with the speaker if possible. Then leave it. Return tomorrow. Listen again. You may be surprised. Something that felt difficult yesterday may suddenly feel easy. Why? Because your brain continued organizing the information. Familiarity grew. Recognition became faster. This is how listening speed develops. Now we need to talk about another important problem. Many learners listen with their eyes. They use subtitles for everything. Subtitles can be helpful, but if you depend on them too much, your reading becomes stronger while your ears remain weak. Imagine watching an English video with subtitles. Your eyes may be reading. I didn't know you were going to be here. You understand perfectly. You think, my listening is improving, but did your ears understand? Or did your eyes do most of the work? This is why subtitles must be used carefully. Try this method. Listen once without subtitles. Let your ears work. Then listen with English subtitles and check what you missed. Then remove the subtitles and listen again. This order matters. Ears first, eyes second, ears again. Your brain now connects the written words with the natural sounds. That can be extremely powerful. For example, You may know the phrase, "Did you eat yet?" But when spoken naturally, it may sound much faster and less clear than the written sentence. If you only read English, you expect every word to have a clean sound. Real speech is different. People connect words, they reduce sounds, they speak in rhythm, they do not pronounce English like a vocabulary recording. This is why listening speed also depends on learning sound patterns. Let us take a simple question. What do you want to do? On paper, every word is clear, but in natural conversation, the words may blend together. If your brain expects 6 perfectly separated words, you may miss the sentence. The problem is not that the speaker is too fast. The problem is that your brain has not learned that sound pattern yet. After hearing it many times, you stop trying to separate every word. You recognize the whole sound. That is faster. This happens in every language. People do not speak like machines. We connect sounds because it is natural. Your ears need experience with that natural movement. And one of the best exercises for this is shadowing. Shadowing means listening to a short sentence and repeating it with the speaker, or just after the speaker, but do not make it complicated. You do not need to copy a 5-minute speech. Take one sentence. For example, I was thinking about calling you. Listen, pause, repeat, listen again, repeat again. Now try saying it at the same speed. Do not focus only on perfect pronunciation. Focus on rhythm. Where does the voice become stronger? Which words connect? Which words become shorter? When you copy the rhythm, your ears start noticing things they ignored before. This is why speaking practice can improve listening. Your mouth teaches your ears. When you learn how a phrase feels in your mouth, you recognize it more easily when someone else says it. Try this sentence. I don't really know what happened. Read it slowly first, then hear how a natural speaker says it. You may notice that the sentence moves as one unit. Repeat it several times. Soon your brain stops hearing 6 separate words. It recognizes the whole phrase. That is exactly the type of training that increases listening speed. Now let us talk about something many learners do when listening. They mentally repeat everything. Someone says, I went to the supermarket after work. The learner hears it, then internally repeats, I went to the supermarket after work, then tries to understand. That internal repetition creates delay. You are listening to the speaker and then listening to yourself. You are processing the sentence twice. At slow speed, you may survive. At natural speed, you fall behind. Your goal is to move directly from sound to meaning. Here, I went to the supermarket after work, and immediately picture a person finishing work and going shopping. No internal repetition needed. No translation needed. No grammar explanation needed. Just meaning. At first, your mind may still repeat some sentences. Do not fight yourself. Simply start practicing with very easy English. When the sentence is easy, try to understand it without repeating it inside your head. For example, she is tired. Hear it. See a tired woman. He missed the bus. Hear it. Imagine the bus leaving. They are waiting outside. Hear it. See people waiting. This direct connection trains processing speed. The easier the English, the easier it is to practice this. That is why simple content has real value. Simple does not mean useless. Simple material allows your brain to practice speed without being overloaded by vocabulary. Another reason learners listen slowly is because they try to understand grammar during the conversation. They hear, if I had known, I would have. And immediately their mind says, wait, is this third conditional? What tense is this? Why did they use had? Now the conversation is gone. Grammar is useful, but a live conversation is not the time to analyze it. Imagine someone throws you a ball. You do not calculate the physics before catching it. Your body reacts. Language must eventually become like that. You hear a familiar grammatical pattern and understand the idea automatically. For example, if I had known, I would have come earlier. You do not need to say past perfect here. Would have plus past participle there. You only need to understand, I did not know, so I did not come earlier, meaning first, analysis later. When you study, grammar can help you understand patterns. When you listen, let the patterns work automatically. This difference is important. Listening is not an exam where you explain the grammar. Listening is receiving a message in real time. Your brain needs to stay with the speaker. Now imagine a conversation. Did you finish the report? Not yet. I was going to do it this morning, but something came up. If you stop at something came up because you do not know the expression, you may miss what comes next. Instead, keep listening. Maybe the speaker continues, "My manager called me into a meeting, and I was there for almost 2 hours. Now the meaning becomes clear. Something unexpected happened. You did not need to stop. You used context." This ability to keep moving is essential for fast listening. Slow listeners often stop mentally. Fast listeners keep following. That means you need to become comfortable with small amounts of uncertainty. You will not understand everything. That is normal. The question is, can you continue listening even when something is unclear? This one skill can make you much faster. Suppose you understand 85%. A weak strategy says, "I must stop and solve the missing 15%. A strong strategy says, "I understand enough to keep following." Then later, if the missing information is important, you can return to it. This is exactly what good listeners do. They prioritize meaning. They do not treat every unknown word like an emergency. There is also a powerful idea called listening ahead. Do not misunderstand this. You are not predicting every exact word. You are predicting the type of information that may come next. Suppose someone says, "There are 3 reasons I decided to move." Your brain now expects 3 reasons. That expectation helps listening. First, second, finally, you have a structure. Or someone says, "The biggest problem is," your brain expects a problem. Or, "What surprised me most was," your brain expects something surprising. These language signals make listening easier. The more patterns you know, the more your brain can prepare for what comes next. That is why Lesson 5 was so important. Automatic patterns create listening speed. They work together. Patterns allow prediction. Prediction reduces processing time. Reduced processing time makes English feel slower. Notice what I said. English begins to feel slower. That is the real goal. You cannot control how fast other people speak, but you can train your brain so their normal speed no longer feels fast. This is exactly what happened in your first language. When you were very young, adult speech probably sounded fast. Now it does not. The language did not change. You changed. That can happen with English too, but it requires many hours of meaningful listening. And here is where consistency becomes more important than intensity. Many learners study listening like this: Sunday, 3 hours. Monday, nothing. Tuesday, nothing. Wednesday, 20 minutes. Then nothing for 5 days. This is much less effective than regular exposure. Your brain learns patterns through repeated contact. Even 15 or 20 focused minutes every day can create stronger listening habits than one huge session once a week. You want English sounds to stay familiar. You want your brain to see English as a normal part of life, not a special event that happens occasionally. So build a small daily routine. Morning, 5 minutes of easy listening. Afternoon, 1 short clip repeated several times. Evening, 5 minutes of listening for enjoyment. It does not need to be exhausting. The important thing is frequency. Every day, tell your brain, English sounds matter. Keep these patterns active. There is another method that can quickly improve speed. Use slightly faster repetition only after understanding normal speed. Some learners change video speed immediately. They play everything at 1.5x or 2x speed because they think this will train faster listening. Be careful. Speed without understanding can become noise. First, understand the content at normal speed. When you know the material well, you can try a slightly faster version for a short time. Then return to normal speed. Normal speed may suddenly feel easier. This can be useful as an exercise, but it should not replace natural listening. Your goal is not to survive artificial speed. Your goal is to understand normal conversation comfortably. Another excellent exercise is 1-minute intensive listening. Choose 1 minute of English, that is all. Listen once. Write down or mentally note what you understand. Listen again. Check subtitles or a transcript if available. Find the phrases you missed. Ask yourself why you missed them. Was the vocabulary unknown? Did the words connect? Did the speaker reduce a sound? Did you know the word but fail to recognize its pronunciation? Then listen again without text. Repeat useful phrases aloud. Listen one final time. This 1 minute can teach you more about real listening than casually watching 30 minutes of difficult content. Why? Because you are studying the gap between English you know and English you can recognize at speed. That gap is exactly where your listening needs training. Sometimes the problem is vocabulary, but very often you discover something surprising. I knew that word, I just didn't hear it. That is valuable information. It means you do not need to memorize the word again. You need sound exposure. For example, maybe you know. Probably, you can read it easily, but when someone says it quickly inside a sentence, you miss it. Now you know what to train. Listen to real sentences containing that word. Repeat them. Let your ears become familiar with how it sounds in conversation. Reading knowledge and listening knowledge are not always the same. A word is not fully yours until you can recognize it when someone says it naturally. This is especially important with very common words. Learners sometimes think the difficult words are causing all their listening problems. Often, the biggest problems come from small common words spoken quickly. Words like have, been, would, could, to, for, of, and. They may become very soft in natural speech. Important meaning words often receive more stress. Small grammar words may become shorter. This rhythm helps native listeners. But learners sometimes expect every word to be equally strong. Train yourself to listen for stressed words first. Imagine, I really wanted to go, but I had to work. The important words carry much of the message. Really, wanted, go, work. The smaller words connect them. If you catch the important words, you can often understand the sentence even if a few soft sounds disappear. This is another reason you should not chase every word. Fast listening is partly learning what deserves your attention. Not everything is equally important. Focus on meaning-carrying words, people, actions, times, places, feelings, changes, problems, results. These give you the structure of the message. Here is an example. Suppose you hear a fast sentence and only catch flight, delayed, 2 hours, airport. You already understand a lot. Someone's flight was probably delayed for 2 hours at the airport. Maybe you missed the grammar. You still have the meaning. That is successful listening. Do not measure listening only by word count. Measure it by message. This mindset reduces panic, and panic is a major enemy of listening speed. When you become nervous, your attention becomes narrow. You hear one unfamiliar word and think, "Oh no, I don't understand English." Now you miss the next sentence. Your confidence drops. The speaker sounds even faster, but the speed may not have changed at all. Your mental state changed. Good listening requires calm attention. You must give yourself permission to miss something. Try saying, "I don't need every word. I only need to stay with the meaning." This simple thought can keep your brain moving. Now let us discuss another powerful tool. Predictable content. If you are training listening speed, listening to familiar topics can help. For example, if you love football, watch English videos about football. You already understand the subject. You know the names. You know the situations. You can predict the vocabulary. That leaves more brain power for processing the sound. If you choose an advanced science lecture about a topic you know nothing about, your brain must do 2 difficult jobs: understand the subject and understand the English. That is much harder. At first, remove unnecessary difficulty. Use familiar topics: cooking, travel, daily routines, motivation, sports, technology you already understand, stories, simple interviews. This makes listening more enjoyable and allows faster processing. As your skill improves, you can expand. There is no prize for choosing the hardest material. Choose the material that creates progress. Another helpful method is to listen to the same speaker regularly. Why? Every person has a voice pattern, accent, rhythm, favorite expressions, speaking speed. When you listen to the same speaker repeatedly, your brain becomes familiar with their sound. At first, you may struggle. After several videos, the person becomes much easier to understand. This gives you confidence. Then you can add another speaker, then another accent. This is like building levels. Do not force yourself to understand everyone immediately. Build a strong base first. Later, variety becomes important. English has many accents: American, British, Australian, Canadian, Indian, Pakistani, African accents, European speakers using English, and many more. Real English belongs to millions of voices. Eventually, you want your ears to become flexible, but flexibility grows more easily after you have strong listening fundamentals. So start with clear speakers, build speed, then increase variety. There is another practice that many learners ignore. Listen without trying to learn anything new. Sometimes you should simply enjoy English. Watch a simple video, listen to a story, follow a conversation. Do not stop. Do not write vocabulary. Do not analyze. Just stay with the message. Why is this useful? Because real life does not give you pause buttons. Extensive listening teaches endurance. Intensive listening teaches detail. You need both. Intensive listening, short clip, repeat, analyze, practice sounds. Extensive listening, longer content, keep going, follow the story, accept missing information. Together these build fast listening. Think of running. Short sprints improve speed. Longer runs improve endurance. Your English ears need the same balance. Short repeated clips build precision and recognition speed. Longer listening sessions train your brain to follow English continuously. Now imagine you have been practicing for several weeks. How do you know you are improving? Do not wait for a magical day when you understand 100%. Look for smaller signs. You need fewer subtitles. You understand the main idea on the first listen. You recognize phrases that used to disappear. You can follow a speaker for longer without feeling tired. You stop translating some common sentences. You recover faster after missing a word. You can understand while doing a simple task. Normal English begins to sound less fast. These are major signs of progress. Listening growth is often quiet. You may not notice it day by day. Then you return to an old video you struggled with 2 months ago. Suddenly, you understand almost everything. That moment shows you how much your brain has changed. So save some difficult clips, return later. They can become proof of your progress. And please remember this, do not compare your listening speed with someone else's. Maybe another learner understands faster because they have watched English shows for years. Maybe they use English at work. Maybe they grew up hearing English. You do not know their full history. Your job is not to beat them. Your job is to make today's English easier than yesterday's English. That is enough. Now let us build a complete listening speed routine you can actually use. Step 1. Choose a short clip between 30 seconds and 2 minutes. Make sure you understand most of the topic. Step 2. Listen without subtitles. Do not pause. Find the main message. Step 3. Listen again. Catch more details. Step 4. Use English subtitles or a transcript. Notice exactly what your ears missed. Step 5. Choose 3 useful phrases, not 20. 3. Step 6. Listen to each phrase several times. Repeat it aloud. Copy the rhythm. Step 7. Listen to the whole clip again without text. Step 8. Return the next day and listen once. That is a complete training cycle. Do this consistently and your brain begins building a library of natural English sounds. That library becomes your listening speed. When a familiar pattern appears in a future conversation, your brain says, I know this. No delay, no translation, no panic. Instant recognition, and every instant recognition gives your brain more time for the next part of the sentence. This creates a powerful chain. You recognize the beginning quickly. That gives you time to hear the middle. You understand the middle. That helps you predict the ending. You stay with the speaker. The conversation feels easier. Confidence rises. When confidence rises, you stop overthinking. When you stop overthinking, you process even faster. That is how listening begins to flow. But the opposite chain is also possible. You miss one word, you panic. You mentally return to the word. You miss the next sentence, you feel lost. You start translating. Now everything feels fast. Your goal is to break that chain early. Missed a word? Keep going. Unknown expression? Use context. Not sure? Stay with the speaker. You can always return later if you are studying a recording. In a real conversation, you can ask for clarification if the missing information matters. Good listening is not perfect listening. Good listening is flexible listening. Here is another powerful mindset. Stop trying to catch English. Start letting English come to you. When you chase every word, listening becomes tense. You are always behind. Instead, focus on the present sentence. Do not think about the sentence from 5 seconds ago. Do not worry about the sentence that may come next. Stay here. Listen to the current idea. This sounds simple, but it requires practice. Your mind likes to travel backward. You hear something unclear and begin thinking about it. Train yourself to return to the current sound. This is almost like attention training. Every time your mind gets stuck, bring it back. The more you practice, the faster you recover. Recovery speed matters. Even strong listeners miss things. The difference is they recover quickly. They do not allow one missing word to destroy the next minute. You need that skill. Now let us imagine two learners. Learner A knows 8,000 words, but they rarely listen to real English. They translate constantly. They panic when they miss a word. They study complicated grammar during conversations. Learner B knows 4,000 words, but they listen every day. They recognize common patterns instantly. They use context. They understand connected speech. They stay calm when they miss something. Who may understand conversations faster? Very often, learner B. Because listening speed is not only knowledge, it is automatic access to knowledge. Knowing a word is one thing, recognizing it in half a second is another. Knowing a phrase is one thing, understanding it inside fast speech is another. Your goal is not only to put English into your brain, your goal is to make English available quickly. That speed comes from repetition, familiarity, pattern recognition, sound training, context, and regular listening. There is no single magic trick, but there is a very powerful formula, easy enough to understand plus repeated enough to become familiar, plus natural enough to train real listening. That combination works. Suppose you listen to a simple story today. You understand 75%. Listen again tomorrow. Now maybe 90%. Listen again 2 days later. Maybe 98%. Some learners say, "But I already know the story. Isn't that cheating?" No, that is training. A musician practices the same piece. An athlete practices the same movement. You practice the same English until the sound and meaning connect automatically. Then you take that improved ability into new English. This is how skills grow. Repetition does not trap you, it prepares you. Of course, you must eventually move to new material. The goal is not to memorize one recording. The goal is to use repetition to build faster processing, then challenge yourself with another clip. Think of it like steps. Easy clip, repeat, master, slightly harder clip, repeat, master, different speaker, repeat, master, longer conversation, follow, different accent, adapt. Little by little, your listening world expands. You do not need to jump from beginner English to a fast movie with slang in one day. Build the bridge, one level at a time, and remember that movies are often among the hardest listening materials. Actors whisper, music plays, people interrupt, slang appears, sounds are reduced, context changes quickly. If you struggle with movies, that does not mean your English is terrible. It means movies require advanced listening skills. Build those skills first. Start with clear conversations, interviews, learner-friendly podcasts, simple stories, short videos, then gradually move toward more natural and difficult content. This progression protects your confidence while still pushing your ability. Now we come to one of the deepest parts of listening speed. Eventually, you must stop hearing English as something foreign. This does not mean forgetting your language. It means English sounds become familiar enough that your brain stops reacting with, "English, I need to translate." Instead, it simply listens. Think about a common phrase like, "Thank you." You probably do not translate it anymore. The meaning is immediate. What if, "I don't know," became just as immediate? Then, "What do you mean?" Then, "I was going to," then, "It depends on," then, "As far as I know," then thousands of other patterns. This is how your English world grows, one automatic phrase at a time, one familiar sound at a time, one successful listening moment at a time. Eventually, entire conversations begin to feel direct. There is less language between you and the meaning. You hear an English joke and laugh before translating. You hear bad news and react emotionally before analyzing the vocabulary. Someone asks a question and you answer immediately. You hear instructions and your body responds. That is a beautiful stage. It means English is becoming connected to your thoughts, feelings, and reactions, and listening speed is what makes that possible. Because real communication happens in real time. You cannot spend 10 seconds decoding every sentence. Language must move. Meaning must move. Your attention must move. So train for movement. Do not only study static words on a page. Hear English. Hear it again. Repeat it. Follow it. Predict it. Miss something and keep going. Return. Listen again. Let familiar English become effortless. And then use that effortless English as the foundation for harder English. If you practice this way, one day you may have an experience that feels almost strange. You will watch an English video. Several minutes will pass. Then suddenly you will realize, I haven't translated anything. You were simply listening. You understood the speaker. You followed the ideas. English entered your ears and became meaning. No extra step. No struggle. No mental dictionary. That moment does not happen because you forced yourself to think faster. It happens because you trained enough that your brain no longer needs to work so hard. That is the secret. Fast listeners are not always thinking faster. Often they are thinking less. They recognize more. They predict more. They translate less. They trust context. They stay with the message. They allow familiar patterns to do the work automatically. So if you want to build listening speed, remember this. Do not chase speed directly. Build familiarity. Do not collect endless words. Automate common language. Do not always choose difficult content. Choose understandable content and repeat it deeply. Do not panic when you miss something. Keep following the meaning. Do not depend completely on subtitles. Give your ears the first chance. Do not only listen silently. Repeat useful phrases and train your mouth too. Do not study for 3 hours once and disappear for a week. Listen a little every day, and do not expect perfection. Expect progress. Your brain is learning a new way to hear. At first, English sounds like a fast river. You stand beside it trying to catch individual drops, but that is not how you understand a river. You learn to see the flow. English is the same. Stop trying to catch every tiny piece. Follow the direction. Follow the rhythm. Follow the meaning. And day by day, what once sounded too fast will begin to sound normal. What once felt confusing will begin to feel familiar. What once required translation will begin to make sense immediately. That is when listening changes. That is when confidence changes. And that is when you realize something powerful. The speaker did not become slower. Your brain became ready. Chapter 7. Understand English without translation. This is the stage every serious English learner wants to reach. You hear English, and you simply understand. No translation, no mental dictionary, no long pause, no sentence moving through your first language before the meaning arrives. The English comes in, and the meaning appears, directly, naturally, quickly. But this does not happen because you suddenly become talented. It happens because your brain has been trained. Everything you practiced in the earlier lessons was leading you here. You stopped translating every word. You began rewiring your brain. You trained your ears to recognize English faster. You focused on meaning instead of individual words. You made common patterns automatic. You built listening speed through repetition. And now all of those skills begin working together. This is where English starts to feel different. Imagine someone says, "I completely forgot about the meeting." A beginner may hear the sentence and start translating it, but when your English becomes more automatic, you do not need that extra step. You immediately understand the situation. Someone forgot something important. The meaning arrives first, and this is the real goal. Not faster translation, less translation. You do not want to become excellent at changing English into another language. You want English itself to carry meaning. Think about a simple phrase such as, "Good morning." You probably do not translate it every time you hear it. You simply understand. Why? Because you have heard it so many times. It has become automatic. Now imagine hundreds of phrases becoming that familiar, then thousands. That is how direct understanding grows. It does not happen all at once. It grows sentence by sentence, pattern by pattern, experience by experience. At first you may understand only very simple English without translating. That is good. Do not underestimate it. If someone says, "I'm hungry," and your brain immediately understands, that is direct English. If someone says, "Where are you going?" and you understand before translating, that is direct English. If you hear, "I don't feel like going out tonight," and the meaning appears naturally, your brain is changing. Every one of these moments matters. The mistake is expecting your brain to stop translating everything immediately. Do not force it. Translation often disappears naturally when English becomes familiar enough. So instead of telling yourself, "I must stop translating," tell yourself, "I need more direct English experience." That is a better goal. Listen to easy English and connect it with real meaning. When someone talks about being tired, imagine the feeling. When they talk about missing a train, picture the situation. When they describe a beautiful place, see it in your mind. When they sound angry, notice the emotion. Language becomes direct when it connects with life. This is why context is so powerful. You are not trying to turn English words into other words. You are turning English into pictures, ideas, emotions, and actions. That is how meaning becomes immediate. And there is another important change that happens at this level. You start trusting yourself. Before, when you heard English, you may have asked, "Did I understand that correctly?" Then you translated everything to check. But stronger listeners do not constantly check every sentence. They trust the message. They understand enough and continue. This confidence matters because constant checking slows you down. If every sentence becomes a test, listening becomes exhausting. Instead, allow yourself to understand naturally. Maybe you do not know every word. That is okay. Maybe the grammar is not completely clear. That is okay. If you understand the message, stay with the speaker. The next sentence is more important than the word you missed 5 seconds ago. This ability to keep moving is one of the clearest signs that translation is losing control. Your brain is no longer stopping at every small problem. It is following the flow. And then something even more powerful begins. You start thinking in English without planning to. You look outside and think, "It looks like rain." You finish your work and think, "Finally, I'm done." Someone tells you surprising news and your first thought is, "Seriously?" You may not even notice when this starts happening. That is the beauty of it. English begins becoming part of your natural thinking. Do not force yourself to think complicated thoughts in English. Start small. Describe what you see. Say what you need. Name how you feel. Think about what you are going to do next. Simple English is enough. "I need some water." "I'm running late." "That was interesting." "I should call him." "I don't agree." These small thoughts build a direct connection between English and your mind. And the stronger that connection becomes, the less your first language needs to enter the process. One day, you may hear an English sentence and react emotionally before you even realize it was English. You laugh. You become surprised. You feel sad. You answer immediately. That is a major breakthrough, because emotion does not wait for translation. The message reached you directly. This is what natural understanding feels like. And remember, this does not mean you will never translate again. Even advanced speakers sometimes translate difficult words or unfamiliar ideas. That is normal. The goal is not zero translation forever. The goal is that normal everyday English no longer requires translation. Common conversations become direct. Familiar topics become easy. Useful patterns become instant. That is fluency growing inside your mind. So keep exposing yourself to English. Keep listening. Keep repeating. Keep noticing patterns. Keep following meaning. Keep using simple English in your own thoughts. Most importantly, stop measuring progress only by how many words you know. Ask yourself a better question. How much English can I understand without effort? That is the real measure. When more English becomes effortless, your brain is changing, and eventually, you reach a beautiful moment. You are listening to a video, or talking to someone, or watching a conversation. Several minutes pass. Then suddenly you realize, you were not translating. You were simply understanding. English came through your ears, meaning appeared, and the conversation continued. That is the breakthrough. Not because English became easier, not because everyone started speaking more slowly, but because your brain finally learned a new path. English meaning, directly. So keep training until English no longer feels like a code you must decode. Let it become familiar. Let it become automatic. Let it become part of the way your mind receives ideas. Because the final goal is not to become a better translator. The final goal is much simpler. Hear English, understand English, stay in English. English becomes easier when you stop translating every word and start trusting meaning. Keep listening, keep repeating, keep training your brain. One day, you will hear English and understand it without even thinking. That is the moment English stops feeling foreign and starts feeling natural. If this audiobook helped you, comment, "I will keep going, keep learning, keep believing, and keep moving forward."